Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi. Okay. I think everything should be working good to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Oh. Okay. Now that's fixed. Hi. Welcome to my stream today. I'm going to be doing a bit of a tell-all as to what's been happening with VTFM, what happened to it, and such. So for this stream, I just want to clarify, I probably won't be able to respond to chat during the presentation. However, at the end I will be doing a Q&A, so if you have any questions, hold on to them, as I would love to be able to answer them. This is going to be a pretty serious toned presentation, just so you guys can kind of understand. I've turned off a lot of the redeems and stuff like that, just so it can go as smooth sailing as possible. I'm also streaming this on the VTFM YouTube, so hello. There's been a few questions as to why and where VTFM is, so I figured I would address them today. Okay, let's get into this. What happened to VTFM? So, like I said, I've been wanting to go through what has happened with VTFM. I find it to be very important to be as transparent as possible with both the VTFM talent and the community, as that is truly the heart and soul of VTFM. Plus, I thought it might be interesting for you all to hear about the process of what has been happening behind the scenes. So let's get into it. Okay. So, VTFM is very important to me. My name's Internalist, but please do call me Intern. I launched VTFM on the 13th of March 2024 after being inspired by the social media challenge of Singing March. This is where V singers from all across the world unite to release new covers and original music every day, following a unique and daily theme. However, without regular circulation of so much of this music and hard work is lost to the feed and constantly underappreciated. So, whilst I am not a singer nor a musician, what I can do is support my friends and community. That's why I launched VTFM, a VTuber Youtaite radio, and have been helping to provide a stage dedicated to amplifying these voices of the creators to celebrate the music that they make. So since launch, I have been a one-man team. I've been working on everything from talent acquisition, production management, graphic design, website management, social media, community development, content creation, hosting VTFM, as well as in conjunction to what I do on my side as a streamer. So everything that you see and hear that is VTFM, that has been from my hands. I'm insanely proud of that. I'm so proud. But I am a slow worker. I have chronic health issues and struggle with the feeling that I'm never doing enough or not doing it well enough or just not doing what I should to help provide for these creators. I've been lucky that I have several talents that have tried to help to step up with moderation, especially for things that come up behind the scenes for when talents are onboarded. So thank you so much for those talents who have done that, and my moderator team, they are fantastic. I cannot thank them enough. However, on the whole, VTFM is a very lonely project since I'm so spread thin across every aspect to ensure that VTFM can perform on a weekly to daily basis. Due to time zones, there's almost a 24-hour demand when it comes to organizing everything to do with VTFM and managing the team across all of the talent pool. So, VTFM has been working with the backing of our Ko-Fi members and I just want to say thank you so much. Because of your support, you've been able to contribute towards the VTFM website and keeping that up. However, for most months, I'm going to be completely honest, most months that and all of the other VTFM expenses have come out of pocket, and it's a really hard truth to face. I can either go back into full-time work in the workforce, so that way I can invest into VTFM, as currently I'm not, as VTFM requires full-time hours to keep it up in production. But if I do that, I will lose the required time to keep VTFM operational. Or I can keep pushing and hope that my dream of VTFM will take off, but struggle to make ends each week until it does. So this reality has been really draining to me, to the point of considering giving up streaming altogether, not just VTFM, but as a creator. And it just really kills me not even being able to go out for a coffee with my partner. So for the past 3 months, I've taken some time off for myself. I did an uncapped streamathon focused entirely on self-care. I was so kindly supported in going to Sydney to experience SmashCon and see my best friends in person, and honestly have a sit down and think about the future of VTFM. So I had given VTFM 1 year to take off before I reevaluated it, to see if this is something that I can pursue, or if it's a dream that I have to give up on, but enjoyed whilst doing it. So here we are. 1 year later, I have decided that I will not give up. But that being said, VTFM has to develop to become sustainable. I am endlessly indebted to the support of my community and Ko-Fi members, and my whole career has been in your hands, and you've all supported me so much, so thank you. But as someone who is insanely stubborn, I do not want to be reliant on the generosity of others, as I want to be there to help others succeed. So that brings us into question, how can we make VTFM sustainable financially? Honestly, I had no ideas. I had some very rudimentary ideas, like maybe some sponsorships or stuff like that. But I figured the best way to figure this out is to talk to the people who would be directly impacted and connected to what we do at VTFM. So I reached out to the talents and asked their opinions. So I present to you the VTFM monetization strategy. Now, prepare yourselves, as I'm going to be going through a lot of statistics. Very interesting. So, this is going to be an outlook on the current VTFM talents and VTFM's approach to the monetization strategies for the future. So, we're going to be getting into a bit of numbers. All of the data in this portion of the presentation has been retrieved by volunteered, even, from the VTFM talents in the form of a survey. The survey was titled VTFM Monetization Strategies and was conducted across July 2025. This survey included multiple choices, checkbox, linear scale, short response questions, and this whole presentation, survey, and data visualization was put together by me. So out of the 48 total VTFM talents, I was able to get 23 to do the survey, and it was very interesting to see what they presented, as it was not what I expected one bit. So, going over the contents of what we'll be talking about in this portion, we're going to be doing an overview, looking at ticketed events, VTFM merch, talent merch, music distribution, and record labels. These are the key topics that I talked to about the talents in this survey. So when it comes to types of monetization strategies that people would like to see from VTFM, I broke it down across commercial advertising, ticketed events, VTFM merch, talent merch, music distribution, and record labels. And with an 87% approval rate, it was more interested in VTFM merch as a whole, but closely followed up by merch of the actual talents from VTFM with a 78% approval rate, beating out typical commercial advertising. There was mediocre interest in the others, but those were the main big three, specifically the merch aspects, that showed interest. So going into ticketed events, there are a few different types that I sort of proposed to see what sort of interest there was. On the whole, there was widespread support for online concerts with 83% approval rate, and everything else was interesting. There was more of a concern that this wouldn't be feasible as far as the ticketed events. But it was very interesting to see where the talents wanted to support VTFM with that. So, for example, doing talent voice packs. So voice packs are a digital product where you'll get a voice snippet from a talent, like a greeting, a hello. You typically see these across a lot of idols and VTubers. Other ideas were talent meet and greets, VR events, IRL venue concerts, and info panels. Info panels and IRL venue concerts were the least popular. Then looking into how much ticketing would be for this. How much would you pay for to go to a VTFM ticketed event? On the whole, we had a wide range of answers, but I would say primarily that the $6 to $10 range per ticket was the most preferred. This is in USD as well. But I feel like that would be on probably a better way to classify as probably the most people would pay. There were some stragglers who said that they would pay 30 plus or even 16 to 20 schmeckles, but the majority really reckon that the lower pricing is going to be more accessible and might get more people there. Going into the VTFM talent involvement, seeing what talents would be interested in actually being there, interacting and performing or engaging with these ticketed events. So 73% of VTFM talent expressed interest in being a special guest at a ticketed event. However, none of them said no. So the ones that didn't say that they were explicitly interested hit me with a maybe, which means that there's potential, and it'll probably come down to what the event is and how it would be organized, and probably even how much ticketing is and more behind the scenes stuff there. But what's very promising is that no one said no. So interesting. Considering that ticketed events didn't have the highest popularity rate of the overall monetization strategies, I thought that was very interesting. Moving on to merch, I asked, how would people like to buy merch? How do people typically buy merch in general? Do they buy it in person, online, or do they just not buy it altogether? On the whole, the vast majority buy merch online. This honestly makes sense, especially when you're supporting VTubers and online content creators. It's easier and more accessible when it's online. However, 44% did say that they really enjoy shopping in person. But there was quite a bit of an overlap. So 35 of all these shoppers like to buy both online and in person. So when I say in person, that would be more at a convention, an expo, think SmashCon, think OnLive, Comic-Con, where you see those sort of artist alleys or booths, which I thought was kind of cool. Going in to talk about what types of merch people would like to buy specifically from VTFM. So this would be VTFM branded merchandise. So that be logo or my face or anything explicitly VTFM specific. So not just about like a talent or talent merch. This would be VTFM merch. So the merch people would like to buy was honestly shocking to me. I did not expect this at all, but the number one merch item that people want to buy from VTFM is plushes. When talking to some of the talents, it came a bit more prevalent that when I say like they want to buy VTFM plushes, they meant more of a collection. They wanted to collect talent plushes, which I found very interesting, as it wouldn't just be a one-off plush buy. It'd be like you assemble your own talents with plushes, and I thought that was very interesting. I did not expect plushes to be in the top 5, let alone the number 1 choice. Then the second most popular was t-shirts and long shirts. Another very interesting one. I assume this is because not all climates are cold, so you can't always wear hoodies or jumpers. It makes it more accessible and easier to wear and gets you out of the house more wearing VTFM merch. After that, we had a tie for third, which was stickers and posters and prints. This is pretty standard when it comes to ignore. I think I might need to update this iPhone. But yeah, so stickers, posters, and prints. Those are pretty standard when it comes to merch, especially when you see it at cons or whatnot. Like, I know they're the main things I normally go for, and I thought they would be voted for significantly higher. So it was quite interesting seeing that whilst they were popular, they weren't the overall pick. So then when it comes to how would the talents want to use a VTFM merch store? Would they want to use it to buy other people's merch, sell their own, or to order merch for themselves and then they can sell it privately? Something along those lines. Significant amount of talents all just wanted to buy each other's merch, which is so freaking cute that everyone wants to support each other. I really love that. All the talents I think are so cute, and I thought that was very interesting, as I really want to buy everyone else's as well. So 87% want to buy other talents' merch. 65% said they wanted to sell their own merch, and 9% said that they wanted to order merch privately so that way they could sell it themselves. Out of who sells merch currently of these talents, only 30% do. The other 70% do not, but 44% of those ones want to. So, there is a pool there, a potential market. Getting into, if I were to work with these talents to help them create merch, how would I want to approach it so that it would feel the best and most collaborative? So what would be VTFM's approach to doing merch with these talents? How should VTFM approach working with them at all? So I gave some options, and on the whole, it was pretty, 83% preferred standardized merch pricing. So where talent earn a fixed percentage, compared to 70% who want the option for VTFM to provide services for art, as well as the option to provide their own art. So that way, the way how it would work is, if VTFM works with artists, VTFM would own the commercial rights to those art for the merch. However, if the talents themselves provide art to VTFM, the talents own the merchandising rights already. So just who owns what with the commercial license. But it seemed to be that there was a mix of both. So having both options would be very important, so that way talents can kind of customize how they want to interact with the store. Then we had a little sneak peek into what VTFM at conventions might look like. Is there any interest from VTFM talents to be represented at conventions through VTFM? So there was overwhelming support here, as 87% wanted to be there digitally, and a staggering 52% wanted to be there in person. So there is a huge interest in VTubers and the VTFM talents to be in conventions and putting their faces out there. When it comes to if they wanted their merch sold at the booths, a matching 87% said that they wanted to as well, which kind of lines up with who wanted to be there, how many people wanted to be there, so it kind of makes a bit more sense. When asked the talent what sort of merch they'd like to sell with VTFM, it looked very different to the what they would want to buy, which I thought was quite interesting, as I thought there'd be more overlap. But there was an overwhelming support here for keychains and carabiners. That was the number one thing that people would like to sell, with a 70% approval rating, followed by t-shirts, long shirts tied with stickers. Then you had tied for third with hoodies, jumpers, and plushes. So you see similar types of merch products, but in a very different capacity of what people are wanting to sell compared to buy. Like last time, keychains and carabiners, whilst there was interest in them, it wasn't this level of overwhelming interest. As well as plushes. Plushes were the number one thing that people wanted to buy, but it seems that people are a bit more tentative about selling their own plush. So when it comes to overall top merch items, the number one would be t-shirts and long shirts. That seems to be the most comfortable when it comes to what to sell there. Then it would be plushes. Then it is keychains and carabiners. Going into looking to more traditional types of monetization strategies, I went and asked the VTFM talents how they felt about advertising, as it made sense to see where their opinions are and what sort of companies that they would feel comfortable with, want to work with, and not want to work with. So I gave them a bunch of different options, and the areas where people wanted to work with the most were clothing and apparel, which lines up with the merch data we saw up ahead, food, as well as games, peripherals, controllers and keyboards. So a bit more focused in the space of tech. There was very low interest in finance and alcohol, as those topics made people a bit more uncomfortable. On the whole, it was very interesting to see the different attitudes people had towards advertising as a whole with VTFM. I started VTFM because I fucking hate ads. When it comes to listening to the radio, it is unbearable. When it comes to listening to streaming services, there are so many ads back to back that you can barely get the content. So I personally have a very adverse reaction when it comes to advertising. But it was very interesting to see how the talents approached it. And it's also very interesting because when it comes to trying to make this dream feasible, sponsorships are so normalized and integrated into content creation these days. So it was so cute that a high majority wanted VTFM to get that bag. There were some people who were very strongly opposed, and it was honestly really interesting to hear their opinions as well. But on the whole, there was a very high approval rate when it comes to getting sponsorships and advertising for VTFM, with 4 out of 5 star rating. Then, yeah, it was just interesting to see the different types of companies that people wanted to work with and not work with. Moving into maybe some more out of the box or alternative or really future planning avenues that VTFM could go into. We were looking into music distribution and being a record label. Now, if you are unsure what a music distributor does, sorry, words are hard. A music distributor helps connect talent and music labels with various digital and physical platforms to distribute music. So some popular ones are DistroKid, and this is essentially what gets music out on Spotify and a lot of those, and it helps the artists collect revenue for people who listen to their music. So, of the artists that are on VTFM, do they even use a music distributor? With the landscape of YouTube, it isn't as necessary, I thought. However, when it comes to making sure that you have income and are able to get your music out, music distributors are very important. So it was very cool to learn a lot more about this from these artists, as 87% of those using a music distributor use them very regularly, which is an insane, like, that's a lot. Whereas 73% of those not currently using a music distributor really want to be. So there's also a market in there for maybe expanding into that avenue. On the whole, as far as how high rated interest there is in VTFM becoming a music distributor, it was 3.5 out of 5-star rated, so tentative. We'll say it was a moderate to positive as far as the opinion of VTFM as a music distributor. However, when it comes to being more of a part of a record label or management system, it was surprisingly about the same rated, but I would say it was a bit more moderate to interested compared to strongly interested, with VTFM being a record label. When looking at exactly what people wanted from a record label, 91.3%, which is the highest of any of the stats that the talents agreed to, is that they really just want promotional management. That is something that a lot of the singers, musicians, content creators in general really struggle with, and one of the core foundations of why I started VTFM. So it was very interesting to see that. Currently, of the VTFM talent that are a part of record labels, only 4.3% are, but 56.5% want to be a part of one. But even more interesting, and honestly a bigger stat to look at when it comes to this, is that 30.4% do not want to be a part of a record label or management at all. Keep in mind as well, this data was pulled from July, so I could assume that there might be a few more negative opinions if I were to poll it today. So when it comes to the overall findings, there is a greater interest in VTFM looking into merchandising compared to other monetization avenues. Ticketed events would have to be considered worth it and affordable, but talents aren't too sure about them outside of the overwhelming support for online concerts. There is a high interest in VTFM merchandising, meaning that VTFM needs better marketing and merch options than what we currently have. There's also significant interest in VTFM talents working with VTFM to create and distribute official talent merch. Now, currently, the majority of talents want to buy each other's merch, as well as be willing to sell their own. 96% of talents want to be featured as a special guest at VTFM convention booths, and talents need the most help with promotional management, which would be the #1 resource that I'd seek from a record label. And honestly, the #1 thing that I found of all these findings is that VTFM's talents are beautiful and incredibly supportive of my dreams, and I cannot thank them all enough for their time and participation in this study, so thank you so much. But here's what I'm thinking, okay? Hear me out. Based on this, work with me, VTFM collaborates with its talents to create merch, then VTFM distributes talent merch in one place online using standardized prices. Then, if any merch has overflow, it is sold at VTFM convention booths, where VTFM artists can feature as special guests in a VTuber interactive space. Cinema. Therefore, not only will VTFM get greater reach and recognizability, how the fuck do you say that? Better recon at being at conventions, they'll provide opportunities for merch and convention appearance to its talents, as well as work towards being more profitable. Recognition. Oh, thank you. That's yeah. Recognition. Write that down. Write that down. Okay. So, this is very interesting, but we need to go do some more recon and learn a bit more. So, let us go to SmashCon and learn about running a booth at a convention. With the thank you to the support of my community, as due to them, I was able to go to SmashCon in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. Now, if you're unfamiliar with SmashCon, SmashCon is a 4-story manga and anime convention located in the heart of Sydney, Australia. It was an incredible adventure to go on, and I had a fantastic time, and it was really, really interesting. So, let's break down what we're going to talk about here. So, from my research and observations at the event, there were several things that were quite interesting. So there was booths, merch, overall trends, and interactive spaces. Looking at the booths at the convention, there was a huge theme of having themed booths. So many artists visually designed their booths around a certain theme, whether that was a flower cart, a supermarket, workshops. I've seen some other cons where people have set up entire booths to look like convenience stores. And the staff who work there wear little uniforms, and it's super themed. And those ones were the most popular when it comes to engagement around the con, as well as the booths that I remember were all themed. I barely remember any booths that were not themed, outside of if they had specific merch that I was interested in. So when it comes to different types of booth layouts, I found that there were 2 main types of layouts. So there was the front layout. This had a large space in the back to hold lots of stock, a large space for staff. It was the most common booth layout, so almost every booth at the convention had this, except for 3. But there is a very limited space for displays, so you constantly see the displays being built up and up and up like a wall. Compared to the corner layout, which has double space for display using 2 tables. It has a walk-in space for customers. It's a very uncommon booth layout, but on the flip side, it has very limited space for stock, limited visibility for the displays that are featured on the side, as well as limited staff space. As far as merch at the convention, these are the most common merch types being sold. So prints and posters, stickers, postcards, photo cards, keychains, tote bags, and then badges and other eater bag charms. They were the most popular, and you very rarely saw anything outside of those 7 types of merch. As far as a convention and exhibition, it does make a lot of sense for that, as a lot of these people are having to transport these merch and displays, and displaying shirts or bigger merch items would take up a lot of space that you just do not have. What was extremely uncommon to see was apparel, music, temporary tattoos, hats, jewelry, shaker cups, plushes, and mouse pads. Overall trends, so big things that were getting quite popular, you saw some things along the lines of mystery bags. They were very popular this year, but there was also this big trend in looking at customizable charms and shakers. So this is where the customer buys a base and chooses some charms for it. For example, a customer buys a $5 Ferris wheel. You choose 5 carriage charms of a selection of characters, and then you add those charms to the Ferris wheel. Then you have the add-on option of buying additional charms at an additional price. Another huge thing this year is that VTuber representation was very prominent, not just in the merch, but with the actual artists themselves showcasing at the convention. So several of the artists there were VTubers, indie VTubers. which means that they have a personal investment into the VTuber scene, as well as showcasing VTuber merch around. Very few booths didn't have at least one VTuber merch as well. They were so prominent that VTubers were categorized into groups, including indie VTubers, which is very cool. So with the VTuber interactive space that was available, VTuber artists, and art of VTubers, I think we are going to be coming into the rise of the indie VTuber at conventions. Very interestingly as well, this is more of a personal interest, but in context to VTFM, this was very interesting to me, this booth. I spent quite a bit of time doing observations around it as well, as there was a music booth from a producer at SmashCon this year. So this producer, their name is Wasi, they are very cool and very interesting to talk to. They had set up their music that they were selling, their CD, as well as the commercial art that they use on their album to sell at this booth. And so they're not an artist, they are a music producer, and so it was very interesting to see how that dynamic worked. I was also very interested to see that all of the art that he had, it was based around OCs and just like pretty, like very, very pretty anime art, anime inspired art. And what I found interesting about that is that people didn't know the characters because they weren't characters in his art, but people were still buying them. So it was a very strong, it didn't matter how it looked, like who the art was of, as long as it looked really spick, people wanted to buy it, which was very cool. He sold out of posters, and I'm very happy that I bought one. Another interesting development is the rise of VTuber interactive spaces, as I mentioned earlier. There was one at SmashCon presented by the Virtuales. So they had over 40 VTubers all having a meet and greet. So throughout their con, they had 3 monitors set up where people could go and talk and interact with a VTuber. It was one of the biggest VTuber meet and greets that I've seen, and it was quite interesting as a whole. So this is kind of going to be a bit of a breakdown of that VTuber interactive space, how the layout is, and how other VTuber interactive spaces I've seen are. So for their space, they had multiple VTubers going at once across 3 different monitors. They were in a corner space by the anime cars, so there was a lot of space to stand around, and it wasn't claustrophobic. They also had headphones. So the way that you interacted with the VTubers is, rather than using the speaker that was at the bottom, they had it running through headphones. So if you wanted to talk to the VTuber, you put the headphones on, and there was a mic attached, as you could see in that prior image. This guy. So you'd talk to them that way, so you could hear them and they could hear you. However, because of that, there was no crowd audio of the VTuber. So for people walking past, the VTuber couldn't be like, "Hey, you!" and pull interest that way. It also meant that if there were multiple people wanting to interact with this VTuber or watch this interaction, it just wasn't possible. The other thing is, because it was located in the anime cars and indie developer section, it was kind of hard to find, but that is not part of the organizer's fault. That's probably just the con in general. The other thing too is the VTuber timetable location. It was only printed for one of the monitors, so if you weren't looking at that main one, which was facing away from the main walking strip, it was kind of hard to see the lineup of talents in general. The other thing too, as you can see from all these POVs that I pulled from online, is that there's quite a few cables that are quite visible. So that is to be expected when it comes to anything with VTubers and technology. There's going to be cables, as that is how we that's how we work. But trying to minimize the amount of cables that are visible, even when it comes to laptops, does quite help when it comes to overall immersion and interaction, as well as just when posting on socials, it looks visually better when that stuff is hidden. Something also that I found interesting is that because this meet and greet was set up by a VTuber group that consists of 5 talents, they had the standees of those 5 talents, but they weren't always the talents that were doing the meet and greets. So walking up to a VTuber interactive space and seeing a standee, I would assume that that standee is of the person who is doing the meet and greet. And so I found that could be a bit of a disconnect. On the whole, this location of where it was in the con would have been quite expensive. And as a startup trying to find a way to become profitable, that is something that I also have to consider. Looking at other cons and the way how other VTuber interactive spaces have been set out, I have some from OnLive and one hosted by Dajobu. So there are tablet and iPad ways of doing VTuber interactive spaces. This is way more portable, inexpensive, plus it comes with built-in speakers. It means that it will probably be harder for the VTuber to hear you if they do not have a mic. So if you're not talking into the mic, the VTuber themselves will probably just hear a lot of loud con noise, which is why both the VTuber interactive space at SmashCon and the one I'll talk about next both use a mic. But it makes it way more accessible. It means you do not need to pay for large spaces, and it directly connects that VTuber with a place of selling their merch, which is really good. Now, I did say it lacks aura. Some of you have clocked that. I do not mean the VTuber that I'm showing here lacks aura. Everyone knows that Evo has incredible aura. I more so meant that using an iPad as an interactive space as a whole, you would not expect that this is a live VTuber present. You'd more so expect it to be a video or something along those lines rather than a place to actually interact with the VTuber. Yeah, lacking presence, thank you. So in a full lineup of booths, you would not spot this booth and be like, that is an VTuber interactive space. You'd probably not even see the iPad in general, as the screen is very small, hard to spot, and very easily blocked. So in comparison to a big booth, big booths feel extremely official. Like looking at this post from Dajobu, this feels extremely official. It has really strong branding, a large standing space, hidden cables and tech to the best of their ability, and a vertical monitor. I'm quite a big fan of the vertical monitors when it comes to these VTuber interactive spaces, as it feels more like a person standing rather than a video being played, especially when it came to the one at SmashCon. Having them so horizontal really did feel like monitors just playing videos. Compared to that horizontal, it's a person talking, they just don't have legs. The only risk of having a booth this big is that it could become a dead space. So if you do not have people constantly coming in and out to interact with the VTuber, look at merch or whatnot, it could become a dead space. So that is when a booth is quiet and people don't want to interact with it because it's quiet, not because what is there is bad or it's not good or anything to do with that, just because people can get a bit awkward and socially awkward. As you see, the other thing too is that it is very expensive to have booths this big. These booths are typically reserved for large businesses, large merch companies, and are very rare and hard to get when it comes to getting merch. It is very expensive. So, what is next for VTFM? We've done some research, we've looked into it. VTFM is not ending. It is going to be coming back. So, Tadaima! Tadaima! VTFM will be returning on August 5th with 2 shows. We're going to be testing out a few different formats. I want to try and make it more accessible to people in different time zones, as I know that has been some feedback that people unfortunately miss the live shows who really want to be there. So I'm going to be testing out doing some different time zones. So our first show back will be August 5th. Show 1 will be at 12 a.m. UTC, and show 2 will be at 7 a.m. UTC. I have some respective time zones there, so PST, AST, and Filipino time zones. So have a look here. I'll be posting this on our socials. I really hope that you can join us. The setlist is going to be called Tadaima, which is welcome back, and it is going to be welcoming VTFM home. We'll be going through some music that we've missed that has come out whilst we're having a hiatus. But if you would like to see VTFM and the themes that are going to be coming out well before the setlist and live shows do check out our website. So our VTFM website has had an entire facelift. On the whole, it is completely brand new looking. It is stunning. I'm not gonna lie, I think I freaking cooked with it. You can see all of our talents. They all have talent profile pages. You can see all of our talents on the home page. You also, if you go into our events page on the website, you'll be able to see the themes for the month. They'll be posted at the start of the month, so you can know what weeks to look forward to, what events are coming up, and it will provide all information there, so you can go check that out. But that is the direction VTFM is going to be heading. What do you guys think? What do you think? What do you think? Do you guys have any questions? Give me a howl. What do you... As a community, because I've talked to the talents, but what I'd like to talk to next is the community around VTFM, the people who support what we do. So, as exciting as it is to dream, it is very important that it is able to connect with the people who want to interact with the space and support what we're doing. And if it isn't hitting, we're currently in the research phase, so it's very important, and any feedback is very good. So, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them up. We'll do that for the next few minutes, so yeah, hit me with what you got. Is there any merch that you're particularly interested for? Do you think that the merch idea wouldn't suit VTFM? Do you have any questions about standardized pricing? Do you have any questions about anything like that? Dangle, you're so cute. What the heck? Thank you. You're so strong. So very interestingly, Dangle says that most of the revenue has come from music distribution, which is very interesting. So like I said at the start of my presentation, I am not a singer nor a musician, but I want to be able to help platforms. So knowing, is that an avenue that I should be looking into, is very interesting. So it was very, very cool to learn a bit more. Well, I see he's a really cool guy. Yeah, he's really cool. I had the chance to talk to him. He was really freaking cool. Okay, could you condense it into a TikTok? I absolutely can. VTFM is back, baby! That's right, we're gonna go back to regular broadcasts. Do not go anywhere, look forward to it. I want to make sure that everyone feels very cool. To hype up VTFM coming out, I will be posting sort of trailers of past set lists to get you all excited, and hopefully you guys can go back and listen to them. Those are all up on our YouTube, VTFM Radio, go look at them. If you want to check out our full lineup of artists, go check out vtfmradio.com, or !VTFM in the chat should be able to bring you any information about that. Okay. I think I like the mystery keychain / plushes of VTFM artists would be really cool. So, like I mentioned in the overall trends that I saw at the con, mystery bags and boxes and stuff are very popular and are very popular at cons. I know one of my earliest experiences of going to cons, I have so much joy of going to an art vendor and getting a mystery box and then just sitting on the floor with a friend going through all the random stuff that I got, and it was a really good time. I think the other bonus of potentially doing mystery boxes for VTFM is that it could potentially introduce someone who already has a bias or a favorite for of the VTFM artists. It could introduce them to someone new. Be like, who the heck is this? I found this random sticker in this mystery box. I'm gonna go check out who this is. I think that could be very cool. I think overall it looks like a very solid plan. And there'll be a chance for like volunteers helping you out in the future, or do you plan to make it so that you and your talents are doing everything? So, like I said at the start, VTFM has been a solo venture currently. Okay. So when it comes to this, to understand the full scope of what I do on a weekly basis, it is a lot and it is non-stop. So when it comes to when we're in full swing, it would start with coming up with a theme. So brainstorming of a theme. Then from that, you need a theme name. You need a logo. So I'd make a logo. Then you need to create that set list. I'd create that set list. Then from that, you need to do the graphic design of doing the set list sheet so that people can see who sang what, who did what. Then you got to put together the live show. So getting all of the videos and putting that into a video, like editing that into a video format so that way I can play it on stream so it runs really smoothly and doesn't have random like ads in between. That has been something that popped up in early iterations of ETFM. That was a jump scare or two. Then working on content as on the side, so making sure that I am promoting the setlist, condensing that setlist into a setlist trailer. So clipping up a lot of the songs from that setlist into a 2-minute video max. I think 1 minute was the goal so that we would fit on all social media. So cropping that setlist and mixing it into that. Then that also doesn't include any talent acquisition and management that I'd have to do, because I also want to know about all the music that is coming out. I want to talk to the artists. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear if they stubbed their toe making this song, because that is super interesting to tell the audience, to be like, did you know this person stubbed their toe? And you can actually hear it at 3 minutes 20. Like, that behind the scenes information is very important. Same with overall keeping up with the artists. So seeing if they have any events coming up, things they want to talk about, promote, anniversaries, and that is also not including keeping up with any music that they are posting. So making sure that I'm aware of any music that was coming out. For a while, I was posting when people did do new music, but that was so much. Plus on top, you have social media, and again, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. So doing that every single week really stacks up. And keep in mind, VTFM only has the revenue of our very kind Ko-Fi supporters. So it's not profitable. And asking people to do that level of work every single week for no pay, it is a really big ask, especially for the level of quality that I'm after and the seriousness that I'm trying to take VTFM. I want it to be perceived as a big operation and professional, because the more professional I can make VTFM seem adds to a level of professionalism and authenticity and quality that the artists have as well. So if I can make VTFM feel cool, it in turn makes the artists feel like it's adding legitimacy to what everyone's doing. That's how I see VTFM. But yeah, I I have in the past had a few people volunteer, but when it comes to managing the high demand of VTFM in conjunction with their jobs, their content creation, they want to do music, they want to do other projects as well. It is very hard to get someone to essentially do a part-time job for free like that. So that is why I haven't been asking people to, or if I have with the very transparent expectations that I understand that this is psycho and I do not expect that of you. So yeah, anything people have done has been very, very, very helpful, and I do not like not paying people. So even though I've had people volunteer, I've tried to pay them anyway, and I have, which is bad when I'm already at like net zero. So anyways, this is why I want to find some good ways of making it monetizable. I definitely a huge supporter of having VTFM represent at conventions. Oh my god, Dangle at conventions! I'd love to help out on the NA side somehow too. Ayo, Dangle. Let me see if I can. So my plan with going to conventions is that if I can test out it here at home in Australia, then I will be able to expand. I think keeping it small before expanding is very important. One of the big flaws that a lot of startups and companies have is not understanding their size. So right now, we are a small little baby, but we are the smallest that we will ever be at this current moment. There is only potential to get bigger, and that is very exciting, and that has always been very interesting and very exciting to me when it comes to VTFM. So we will be starting with the dustiest, smallest, crunchiest little booth we will find at any convention in Australia. And then one day we will have one of the big, super expensive Youtaite booths. That is the goal, okay? But first we start crusty. We start crusty and we make it, we just get there. If we can get there, it will be fine, and then we'll make it cool, okay? Make it exist first, then make it cool later. But yeah, places that I would love to go to. So first, we'll do Australia. I'll try and go to a few different cities in Australia. Then I will go and try and do Philippines. I have some contacts there that I have been talking to, and I think that there's some cool prospects over there. Plus, the literal majority of VTFM artists are Filipino, which is why I have been adding the PH time zone, because, I mean, I want them to be there. I want my artists to know when it is. So, it would be so cool to catch up with. Oh my gosh, yo, VTFM karaoke in the Philippines one day. Let's go. That would be cool. Other places, NA would be sick. Canada, go visit Joe. Like, world tour for sure one day. But before then, crusty little Australia booth, and we'll see how that goes. Again, this is all in the research and planning phase, but it's very cool that I can share this with you all. And thank you all for the feedback and interest and whatnot. And so I asked about potential volunteers who want to help out with things. When it comes to some of the bigger events I want to put on for VTFM, I think it's very important that I do get volunteers and people to help out with that more, as it has been very overwhelming in the past. I'm very proud that everything I've been able to do for VTFM, I think, has been running very smoothly, but it is a very big toll. So hopefully we can get some good help when it comes to some events. I know what I'm gonna do in my limited free time. Let's go! Let's go. Right now, if you want to support VTFM, the best thing you can do is share the artist's music. Go let people know about these awesome creators. Let people know about VTFM if they want to listen to or discover a bunch of awesome creators as well. But August 5th, it's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, unless if you're in the Monday show for PST time. It's a Tuesday, and I cannot wait for you all to be there. So much good music has come out, and I cannot wait to get VTFM back on going. Because when VTFM was cooking, I couldn't help but notice that there was a lot more music coming out, and my delusional ass is like, yes, I support them so they can support themselves. Yes. So I love seeing how motivated people can get from being or surrounded by other people who are super motivated and talented. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Please let me know. I appreciate how well put together this presentation is. Thank you for how much effort you put into VTFM. I hope we'll be able to go through together. Oh my god, my heart. Thank you so much for your support. Again, I am so endlessly supportive and appreciative of the talents of VTFM. Please go check them out. Full lineup is on vtfmradio.com. They are so kind and so nice, and they're the reason I started VTFM, and they're the reason that I want to pursue VTFM. Again, I do this for my friends and my community, so thank you for inspiring me and giving purpose to my life. I, as a creator, never quite felt as locked in as I do since starting VTFM. It's like something clicked in my head. I was like, oh shit, we can make this happen. We can do this. So, one last big thing when it comes to VTFM. I have been hosting it on Twitch on my channel for a very long time, over a year, ever since it started. However, it is time that I do make it official and take us to a VTFM Twitch channel. So, let me shout out the up-and-coming VTFM radio Twitch. For the first few shows, I'll try to multi-stream here. We'll be always doing it on YouTube, but we'll be moving across for VTFM to do VTFM on its own Twitch channel. So go give that a follow. Go check it out. August 5th. I look forward to seeing you all there. I am really stoked. Thank you all for the support. I hope this was interesting and kind of gives you a breakdown of what happened to VTFM, where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. And maybe a few interesting little tidbits and data if you're interested in that along the way. Thank you for joining me today. It was a very good talk. If you have any other questions, feel free. We now have a VTFM Discord as well. So we are opening this up to the public. So if you want the latest news of VTFM, you want to see new music posted by the artists, know when things are coming out, hot diggity dog, what are you doing here? You better be jumping over into the VTFM Discord. We're going to be posting all things there. It is now public. I hope to see you guys in the VTFM Discord. Wah, wah, wah. I'll be posting about that over on Twitter. Keep an eye out for the highlights of some of the past VTFM sellers. And I cannot wait to say welcome home to VTFM. I'll see you guys on August 5th. I cannot wait. I'll see you guys all there. Please support your VTFM talent and indie creators and just the Youtaite community as a whole. Thank you all. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me. I'll find someone to